I think a couple of things. First of all, um, I think that it's good because it exposes more young people to seeing theater because of the spectacle of technology. For instance, a Disney Broadway show, a Beauty and the Beast, a big show like that. Because of the spectacle of it from the technology, it allows younger people to go and see it. They want to see it. So I think that it's good in that sense because it brings new people to the theater who would never have been there otherwise. Where I think that it hurts the theater is that it makes it very difficult to replicate and do a show like a Beauty and the Beast or a Lion King or something like, or producers even for that matter, when it leaves Broadway. How does it get to, it tours, but then does it go to community theater? Can community theaters do shows like that? I know that in, at Brookfield at TVTA, I mean, that would be a joke that we would even think about, being able to do things like that. So I think in those instances, it does hurt Broadway. Brian and I, when we talked a little bit about the whole Miss Saigon thing, and it always makes me laugh because whenever anyone talks about doing Miss Saigon, they say, oh yeah, that's the show with the helicopter. And that's all people know. Most people would not even know one song from Miss Saigon. They wouldn't know anything from it. But they know it's the show with the helicopter, which makes that, an impossible show to do in most community theaters. When we did Putting It Together here at TVTA a few seasons ago, when we had put it on the schedule, we decided that we would go see it, the revival of it on Broadway. So there is a piece that most people don't know. It's a compilation of Sondheim's work from the second half of his career. And most people don't know the show, so okay, I know Stephen Sondheim. So to do a show like that, a revival in New York, when it's just it's a review, it's not a show with a plot. So what do? They do two things that stood out for me. They bring in names. They bring in Carol Burnett to star in it. Carol Burnett's never done a Sondheim show that I'm aware of. George Hearn, who had just, has done Broadway forever. And what's his name? Bronson Pinchot, the guy that was in Perfect Strangers. They bring him in as the third name. So they do that first of all to kind of save the show, get people interested to come and see it. And then when I saw it, the show is basically a no set, no brainer, nothing. But just because it's on Broadway, there's a scene where there's a cocktail party going on, and instead of somebody walking around with a tray of drinks to give it to somebody, out of the floor comes this pedestal with a silver tray of drinks on it, just at the exact moment when somebody needs to take it or somebody needs to put one down on the other side. So that's the perfect example of Broadway. Okay, it's a show that could be done anywhere with nothing. You don't need a set or anything, but it's Broadway, so let's spend $10,000 on that stupid little something. And I will say too that when that happened in the show, just because of the mentality now of people when they go to Broadway and what they expect, when I come out of the floor, everybody's it's like great, everybody claps and thinks that's wonderful. It's like whenever anybody does anything on stage, if they dance or something, everybody always claps. It's one of those stupid things. So that's the technology thing. I think that, like the first question you asked me, I think that it works, that this goes both ways. Um, I think that wireless mics are a great thing because, especially dependent on the size of the house you're in, when you're in a Broadway house that has, 1,500, 2,000 seats, whatever in it, obviously you need to be able to hear people, and wireless mics are great because it enhances the sound quality and makes the experience better. I agree with that in a space, in a house the size of TVTA also. The problem is that people become dependent on them, and I think that actors, performers, musicians have become really sloppy because of that. I know when we just did Bye Bye Birdie, a couple of moments when we had tech sound problems or whatever, and people are like, oh, I couldn't be heard because, my mic wasn't working. Well, I think you need to be able to learn how to project and know what you're doing. The microphone is used to enhance, not to replace what you should be able to do. I mean, in a house this size with 136 seats, 150 seats, you should be able to, sing your brains out without a microphone. That should never be an issue here. But I think that people have become really sloppy and lazy with that, and people say they can't do it anymore, and it hurts their voice. But so in that respect, I do think that it has, when people are dependent on it entirely, I think it's hurt.
I think it sets a difficult standard, because then when you go to do Beauty and the Beast at some place like Brookfield High School or Main Street Theater, you don't have those resources, so you are setting yourself up for mediocrity in terms of the technical aspects of the show. So I think in that sense, I mean, obviously technology has advanced and people can do unbelievable things on the stage, but I think that that's not really what theater's about. And just because you have the ability and the capability to do these huge things doesn't mean that you should be doing it. I think it depends on how you're using the mics. Like if you're using them purely for volume, like you're in a weird acoustic space and you literally can't be, like my theater in Woodbury, which is all kids, the space has really poor acoustics, so if we didn't use mics, and it's little kids, you'd never hear them, so I think that's good. I think when mics are dangerous is when you start really playing with them and you're getting something out of someone's voice that isn't there naturally. It does not make sense. Like you're not just making them louder, they're singing one sustained note and you're making them louder and softer and you're adding echoes and stuff, then it's fake. And I think it cheapens this standard of talent where, like, when Ethel Merman was doing theater, she had to be wicked loud all the time, and that was a lot of work. And so I think now when you have microphones and you have singers cheating, or actors, I guess, and they no longer have to learn to project the way that Ethel Merman had to. I just think that cheapens it a little bit. And then, too, again, because I work with kids, you have kids seeing these shows and hearing these amazing things that actors do, and I think it sets a difficult standard to aspire to, because I always have to sit and tell my kids, well, that's not always necessarily them. That is modern technology and recordings, and that's not where, when you listen to Ethel Merman, she might not have the most beautiful voice, but it's really hers. That's something that that person could naturally come to. So I think with microphones, it depends on the purpose you're using them for.
Say you love me, tell me so. Let me know. Talk to me till I press you close to me. Then you'll see we won't have to talk.
It seems to me that tech is becoming a more prominent thing. Like, I mean, it's been getting bigger, and now, like, with Tarzan and everything, like, you need to have amazing tech for people to think a show's good, except with Disney, a lot of their shows get awful reviews anyway, but I think tech is the only thing driving a lot of the audience to Broadway now. Like, a lot of kids are going to see their favorite Disney shows, a lot of families want to go see more fun shows that have a lot of spectacle rather than, like, doubt. I think once it leaves Broadway, a lot of community theaters are going to try it, and people will go see it. But I don't think it really has a very good chance of being a great show. Like, I mean, it's fantastic to look at, but it's not an amazing musical as itself. Like, as a book, it's not a great book. Like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was an awful book, and people flocked to go see that because they wanted to see a car flying above the stage, but you can't really do that at a community theater.